Please enjoy MaryAnne Moorman, better known as Auntmama.
That is, it was supposed to be short, Eva. It was supposed to be just a little. That is a very nice introduction. That's actually probably possibly the nicest introduction. Did I really say all of those things? I can't believe I did. I am Auntmama, and it has been my great pleasure to work with the Seattle Storytellers Guild and many of you. And I am going to tell you 2 stories tonight in this night of thanks and tribulations. First stories are going to be just a little story about something I was thankful that didn't happen. And then I'll tell you a story about something I'm thankful that did happen. Now, back in the area that Eva was talking about in Windy Gap Mountain, they were scarce one winter, and country folk needed them, and we didn't have one. But that's okay, because my brother Shaq told Mama he would get us a turkey. He would shoot a wild turkey, and that's what we'd have for Thanksgiving. And she leapt and said, "Herman Shackford Moorman Jr., don't you bring one of them birds in here. I'll cook it, but you got to clean it." Now, that wasn't any problem for my brother Shaq, because he was amazing. He was my big brother. I worshiped the ground he walked on, and he could shoot a deer. He could drop a buck at 50 feet. He could snag a fish from any cove. He would just scrape a duck bare, and it would taste so good. And he knew Mama didn't have a turkey and was just planning on making some chickens. And he wanted to get her a wild turkey. But he wanted to get her Hector. And he told us at breakfast he was going to get Hector. I was about 5 years old probably, and I said, "Who's Hector? Where's Hector?" Shaq said, Hector is maybe 20 pounds, maybe 30 pounds. Hector's the biggest turkey, as big as the Blue Ridge Mountains. This is the best turkey. I said, I want to go get Hector. My brother gave me about 25 reasons why I couldn't go. They were always trying to tell, because I was a little sister. And I couldn't go because I was too little, and couldn't go because he was going to go early in the morning, and I couldn't go because I'd make too much noise. I said, "No, I won't make any noise." And he said he was worried because there could only be one sound, and that sound would be the coo, the cluck. You have to call a turkey. When they talk about turkey calls, there really is a turkey call. So every night we'd go to sleep, and Shaq would be in his bed, cluck, 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 coo, 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 coo. And then I'd get up in the morning thinking I was going to go with him, and he'd already be gone. He'd go, and he'd come back to breakfast, birdless, eat his grits. He really was working on that call, and he told Mama, he said, "I'll get her. I'll get Hector. I'll get." And Mama said, we could just have chickens. That's what we'd have. Shaq really wanted to. He was on that trail. He was trekking up there to find those turkeys. And he wanted Hector, which seemed interesting to me. And I asked about Hector, and Shaq said, "Well, Hector is always just around the girls." And I said, "Well, does that make it hard to get Hector?" And he said, "Yeah, he's with his harem." Well, Hector, and the trick is, it's not fair to shoot the girl turkeys. You don't. That's against the rule of the game. And I think there's a reason they call it game, because my brother was having fun doing all this. He was worried, but he was having fun. So one morning, I don't know why, but I woke up and I heard the kitchen door swing shut. And I went, "I'm going to get him." And I put my little pink snowsuit on over my pajamas and got my jacket and went on out the back door. And it was so cold in that Appalachian mountain, and you could see your breath make little marshmallows around the back porch light. I could see him, and I trudged after him, and it never occurred to me that my little legs were not going to be able to keep up with him. Snow was coming in. There were flurries then, and Mama had already started making pies, so I knew we were getting close to Thanksgiving, and I could hear a shrill cardinal, and just cut through the air like a gunshot. Got a little further on, couldn't see my brother, and sky turned sort of slate gray as light came, and squirrels were running, and I thought I saw a possum. I was getting just a little tiny bit scared because I didn't know where it was. And so I thought maybe I should try to retrace my steps. So I kind of tried to go backwards, and I saw a clearing. And I thought, oh, okay. And then I heard a noise. Gobble, gobble, gobble. I wondered, is that Hector? So I got a little further out in the clearing, got on out there, and sure enough, there was the biggest turkey I have ever seen in my life, with great big turkey, red, and had his tail feathers all fanned out, and he was strutting. And I ran out and looked at that, and then I heard what I thought was a squirrel, and I turned around, and there is my brother Shack with his rifle right there, aimed right at me. First, I was scared because I saw a rifle. And then I was scared because I thought he might kill me himself. And he didn't, but he said, you know, Mama would kill you if she knew you were out here. And I almost did. And I told him I was sorry, and he said, you just ruined Thanksgiving. Ooh, did I feel bad? And we watched. My brother pointed and said, there goes Thanksgiving. And there was Hector out there with all these hens just watching him dance around. But the next day, Shack went out again, and he got out really early before I could hear him. When he came back, he was all excited. He was talking a mile a minute. Mama said, calm down. What is it? And Shack said, I got him. I got Hector. We're going to have wild turkey for dinner. And then I learned why they call poultry fowl. Because if you have never smelt a wild turkey boiling outdoors and know what it does to the entire area, it is the worst smell. I know why Mama didn't want it. But he got it all clean, and she baked it. And we bowed our heads over the steamy mashed potatoes at the table. I peeked up. I looked at my brother, and he was looking right back at me. And we both gave thanks for what didn't happen. And that's the story of Hector from Windy Gap. Now, the story about what did happen goes back to Richmond, Virginia. I did eventually get out of those mountains. It took a lot, but I did get over the mountains, got to school at Virginia Commonwealth University in the heart of the Confederacy, right there in Richmond, Virginia. And it was bordered on one side by Monument Avenue, and on the other side there was a street that had the mosque. That was right next to Monroe Terrace Park, and the mosque was the most out of place looking thing you've ever seen. In the midst of these Federalist Southern structures was this thing that looked like the Taj Mahal. And it was a Shriners building, and they wanted something special. So they had it. It was the mosque, and it took up one corner, and a lot of the stuff from the school was done there, dances and things like that. And then down the street, there was the temple. This is not a Jewish temple. That was called the temple, and it was the Masons' temple, and it was the biggest, strangest looking place you've ever seen. We thought they were in competition with the Shriners. And inside the temple were where the drama students went. And I was a drama student. I was so happy. We were the misfits of our entire homes and families, and we were shrieking with laughter and belonging to finally be someplace that we wanted to be. And we'd gather by the bulletin board in the mornings with our black coffee. You drank black coffee because Joni Mitchell drank black coffee. And the boys all had on their turtlenecks. You know, this is when boys wore button downs, but our guys had turtlenecks and tried to look like Ferlinghetti. And most everybody thought they were gay, because if you were a boy and you were going to drama school, you had to be gay, and people would say that. And Charles Massey didn't care what they say, because he'd look right back at him and say, yeah, I'm gay. And I'm proud of it. And I never heard anybody say this, because it was 1968. 1968, we were singing "We Shall Overcome," just like Joan Baez had taught us, and Mahalia Jackson. The Apollo had gone to the moon, and Arthur Ashe had won the U.S. Open, which was just about as hard for a black man to do as going to the moon had been. We were on the winning side. We were anti-establishment. You know, we were a bunch of white kids. We didn't know what we were doing. We were a little arrogant. We thought we were a little bit better than everybody else. We didn't have anything to do with the business students who would be able to support the arts. We didn't have anything to do with the medical college because we didn't realize they could support the arts. And we certainly didn't have anything to do with people who were going to be teachers because, you know, they were not going into the arts. So there we were, 1968, thinking we're going to get out of Vietnam, thinking we're going to change the world. Dr. King is talking, he is preaching, he is rallying, he's alive. And up the stairs of the temple walks the most beautiful young woman. Her name was B. Bush, and she was black. She stared at us, and we stared at her, and then we smiled. She was the first black student admitted to Virginia Commonwealth University, and she was going to be in the drama department. And that made us very excited because then we could be more anti-establishment and we could work with Bill. The other reason we were excited is we could finally do stories about Bessie Smith, and maybe we could do a Raisin in the Sun one day if there were more black people who got in school. And so we did what kids do and what people do if they just do it. We stayed up late and we made sets and we were in rehearsal and we were working together and we were joking together and we were studying together and we all became friends. And every day, Bea couldn't stay in the dormitory, so she was in the Churchill section of Richmond, and she'd take the bus and she'd get out on Monument, she'd get out the Robert E. Lee statue and walk down to the Stonewall Jackson and come on up to the school, and we'd start our day and do our day. One day we were at the bulletin board. We were in rehearsal for Oh, What a Lovely War, because we were personally going to get out of Vietnam. And there was a big poster that said, the Harvest Ball Queen Contest. Now, ordinarily, something that was going to be put on by the Greek fraternities would not be something we would do. But Mr. Massey was there, and he took it down. I thought he was going to ball it up and throw it away, and he read it and said, it says to 6 girls will be the ladies in waiting, and there'll be 1 queen, and we should vote for whoever our favorite girl, our most beautiful girl, and then whoever gets the most votes will be the queen. And I thought that was going in the garbage can. And all of a sudden, Charles Massey turns around just like a ballerina and says, let's nominate B. And people were looking at him. And I said, B is the raisin in the tapioca pudding. We don't have a snowball's chance in heck of getting her elected. And Charles said, but think if we could. Think we could catch the attention. Think what we could do if we could do that. We didn't think about B there for a minute, but we were thinking. And we talked ourselves into this. And when she came up, 5 of B's just commandeering her and explaining why this was a good idea. And she was looking at us. I had never seen a black person turn gray, but she did. And we talked to her, and she said, well, she talked to her parents. Bea was probably 18, maybe 19 years old. So that afternoon, she left the building and she went down to Stonewall Jackson, went back over to Robert E. Lee, took the bus. We waited for her the next morning. We were all ready, and she comes in and says, well, they think it's a little drama department thing, so okay, I can. And we began. We were the drama kids. We could do anything. Hey, kids, let's put a show on Broadway, right? Yeah, right. So we all went out to get votes. And I took the dorm, Monroe Terrace, big building, because the girls got locked down at 10 o'clock in 1968. So that gave me all night to go knock on doors and say, would you vote for B? Would you think about voting for B? And some people slammed the door. And some of the girls said, well, nobody's going to vote for her. So yeah, I'll vote for her. And then one night I was on a top floor, and I should have known better. I should not have knocked on this door because somebody had taken tissues, Kleenex, and made roses out of them, and then they arranged them into a Valentine, and it said something like Dorothy loves Donnie, and that's just something you would walk by. But no, I knocked, And this girl comes to, and she's got her hair in those little pink rollers that you used to have, and she's got face cream on, and she wanted to know what I was doing. And I told her, and I said, I want to know if you would like to vote for B. She was incensed. She had words I cannot repeat, slammed the door, and I thought, well, that was a mistake. The next morning, I was called into the dean's office. Dean Neff. Dean Neff had an Adam's apple that went up and down. And as he read me the riot act about my being un-American, confrontive, coercive, I can't remember the other words. All I could do was watch and go, he looked a lot like Hector, the turkey. And so I just started calling him Turkey Neff. And then that caught on eventually. And Turkey Neff just, I cannot knock on any more doors. Well, that was okay because I'd already covered the dorm and it was time to get Bee's picture taken. And the art students took her picture, and that was for the poster of all the girls who were going to run. And it was beautiful. We got it on. It was on the telephone poles, on the bulletin boards, all through. And the next day we came out and people had taken markers and marked up her picture. And they had written on it. And they had written on it words you can imagine and don't need to be repeated. And then there was the night that we went to rehearsal, and there were 3 guys, and they didn't have anything. They didn't have hoods over their head, but they had white sheets on them. And after that, we started walking with Bee back to the Stonewall Jackson and then to Robert E. Lee, where we waited to catch the bus at the monuments there. And then it came time for the vote. And so we sat out again. And everybody had their assignments. I had mine. Charles Massey had it. And my assignment was the library. I positioned myself in front of the library. Have you voted? Will you vote for B? And sure enough, next day, MaryAnne Moorman report to the dean's office. So I go trudging on up to Turkey Neff, and he talks, got this squeaky voice, sounds like a squeaky voice. And I told him, I did exactly, I didn't knock on any doors. I didn't go through the dorm. The word suspension was mentioned several times, if I ever did this again, because I was being un-American and a rebel rouser, which you'd think in a southern state that would be a good thing, but that was not a good thing. So I stopped. 2 days later, it was the votes. It was, paper votes back in 1968. Everybody put their vote into a box, and it was time for the votes to be counted. We get to the school, we get to our bulletin board, and there's a loudspeaker, and we're waiting to hear it. And the first girl's name's called off, Shirley. And then there's another girl's name, Linda Perdue, and then there's Kathy Crockett, and there's no B. And we figured we failed, and we got up. She kind of looked relieved. And then Turkey Neff came back on that loudspeaker and said, the Queen this year will be Beat Bush. The Queen, not a member of the court, the Queen. Well, we were beside ourselves. We were gloriously happy. Only Bee was just about in tears and what's wrong. And she told us her parents didn't expect this, and she'd need a ball gown. And well, that's no problem because we have a costume shop and we can make the costume. And so she told her parents. We started making costumes. We were all making costumes. And the night of the ball, we were going to be at the mosque. It was a big deal. Charles Massey wanted to be her escort. Turkey Neff had said, in no way can a white man escort a black girl. Okay, her boyfriend was going to come. That was fine. So we were up in the costume shop, and the costumer had gotten a dress that had been Romeo's, had been Juliet's. Massey thought it was Romeo. Juliet's dress, and it was autumn colored. It was gold, and she was up on the table, and God, she was beautiful. She had these high cheekbones and this gorgeous smile, black hair, and seed pearls all up and down the side, and probably had a few flasks. There could have been a little liquor involved in this. And we go downstairs to meet our dates, and her boyfriend was in the lobby of the temple waiting. Oh my God, he was gorgeous. And black tie, and And the boys get it, and we go down the stairs, and we see it. And the guys push us over against the wall a little bit so our dresses don't catch on fire. And we walked past the crosses that were burning all the way up the street. And it was scary. And we got to the end of the street and the crosses weren't burning anymore. And we were glad. And we turned the corner and went to the mosque. And then we turned to the mosque and there were National Guard across the street with their guns, like my brother's gun, in front of them. And we didn't know if we were there to protect us or shoot us. So we got into the mosque real quick. The guys opened up the brass doors and we went in. And as soon as we went in, the huge ballroom, it was on tiers and it had 3 tiers. The biggest Confederate flag you've ever seen dropped from the top tier. And we could see all the fraternity boys up there and how angry and awful they looked. It was uncomfortable. No one was welcoming us in, but the drama kids stayed together. We stayed right there with the Turkey Neff, and all the officials are up there and they got the microphones. We're now going to announce. And you could tell they were really uncomfortable. We're going to have the Queen and court. And Linda Perdue went up, Kathy Crockett, and they all got their boyfriends on their arm. And then he gets to be, and now be Bush. And he couldn't say her name. Her boyfriend got, and Charles Massey stood up. And he went with them. So she had an escort. She had a black man and a white man on either side. And when she tilted her head down for the tiara to crown, the band played Dixie. And all those people were singing like their voices were huge jet jumbo engines. I wish I was in the land of cotton. Old times there are not forgotten. And we heard that song in a different way. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. In Dixieland, I'll take my stand. And on that word, that word, stand, a caper became a calling. And we took each other's hand and we made a circle and we danced. We danced with our queen and we gave thanks for a moment when the forces of good won and our work wasn't done, but we had ourselves some fun the night of the harvest ball. And that's the story of something I'm glad did happen. And it did change our lives. And Lucia has a song of thanks. We are many faiths. Lucia and I share a faith, as many of you do. And Lucia, would you sing for us again?
Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because he's given Jesus Christ, his Son. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because he's given Jesus Christ, his Son. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich because of what the Lord has done for us. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich because of what the Lord has done for us. Give thanks. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because he's given Jesus Christ, his Son. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because he's given Jesus Christ, his Son. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich because of what the Lord has done for us. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich because of what the Lord has done for us. Give thanks. Give thanks.
We certainly do give thanks to Lucia. I introduced Lucia and talked about her piano, and you might wonder why you didn't hear her piano. She's sitting right in front of it. It's right there. It's a beautiful little piano. But just before we did this tonight, we discovered that Zoom did not wish her to play the piano and sing at the same time. She was kind enough to sing without her piano. Someday, I hope you get to hear her. She really can. What you know, we used to say she could knock a piano cold. So I hope you get that experience at some point. Thank you very much. We'll hear one more song from Lucia before we say goodnight. And I am going to. I wish I could think of 1,000 things to say about Eva and do it as well as she did it, but I will just. I'll just say a few things about Eva. Many of you know her. You know her as a storyteller. You may know her as an actress. You may know her as a touring actress who brings history to life, and a storyteller who weaves traditional tales with history, with her own writing, and we learn. She connects our hearts with stories, and we learn. From New Orleans. You come from New Orleans, there are things you know. You know, and you hear, and you know stories. She came to Seattle. She came from the University of Washington. And she named her company Rainwater. And I think that's how you can find her. Somebody can put it in the chat room of how you really find her before I make up things that are wrong. And I love that because rainwater carries. Like you carry a story. And Eva carries stories for generations and generations and generations. And she opens her hands when she tells these stories, and it pours out like water from a well, like water from the sky. And the rain washes over us, and we feel, and we learn, and we know things we didn't know before. She's going to do that right now. You can put your hands together, or you can just open your heart and welcome Eva Abram.
Thank you, MaryAnne. Thank you for that wonderful welcome. I am excited to be a part of this show, and I've been enjoying the singing and the stories. Now, I have a story that comes from Central Asia, the area of Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, some countries that were along the old Silk Road, thousands of miles away. Now, the good thing about stories is that no matter where in the world they come from, thousands of miles away or from across the street, we can still relate to them, especially stories about humanity and justice. And there was a young girl who was being raised by her father, who cut and sold wood for a living. Not a great living, but they had a little house, some tools. But their main, most valuable thing they had was a good horse and a mule. One day the father slapped that special saddle onto the horse, loaded it down with wood, and told his daughter, "Eine Kiskens, I'm going to the market. I'll be back before dark." "Okay, father, but remember, at the marketplace, one man's gain can be another man's loss." Wise words from my wise daughter. I'll remember. So he made his way to the market, walked down Market Street, and found a place at the very end there where he could stand to sell his wood. And he waited. Nobody bought wood, not one stick. He started to think, well, maybe I should head home. But then this black-bearded Bai strolled into the market. Bai, B-A-I, that is the word in that land for rich man. This black-bearded rich man strolled into the market wearing a beautiful silk robe. Said, "You there, what will you sell your wood for?" "All of it? All of it. 1 gold coin, sir." "And will you sell it exactly as it is?" "What else would I do with the wood?" "Yes, sir, exactly as it is." "Good, there's your coin, follow me." And he led this man to his mansion of a house, and the woodman started unloading the wood. "Stop, what do you think you're doing?" "I am unloading your wood, sir." "You sold me that wood exactly as it is, which means the horse belongs to me too. But I didn't mean to. I'm not going to argue with you. If you don't like it, we can go to court to settle this." And the woodman was a mild-mannered man. He didn't want any trouble. But he also knew that that horse was one of the most valuable things they had. So they went to court. Now, in a court of law, a judge is very powerful. A wise judge can take a wrong and make it right. An unwise judge can take a wrong and make things even worse. This judge listened to both sides of the story. But then he tried to find some little wording or excuse to rule in favor of the rich man. So he said, "Woodman, you sold that wood as is, did you not?" "Well, yes, but as is means as is. The horse is his." Case closed. So the rich man went home with the horse, and the woodman, he went home with nothing. That man's experience reminds me of another man. Homer was his name. Now, Homer didn't go to court complaining about being cheated out of a horse. He complained about being treated like a horse. Now, this happened not that long ago, just over 100 years ago, and not that far away, down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Let me tell you what happened. Now, Homer got dressed in his finest suit one day, went down to the train station, got him a first-class train ticket, sat in that first-class seat. "Oh, I'm gonna ride in style today." Tickets. What are you doing here? Get to the back where you belong. You see, there were separate cars, one for whites, first class, and another one for people like Homer. Now, Homer knew this. Every African American in the country knew that. But Homer wanted to challenge it. He said, "Man, I paid for this ticket. I know my rights. The national law says equal protection for all. National law. Is that so? Well, I'm the law on this train, and I say you get to the back or get off. So that is how Homer ended up in court. 8 judges sat in their impressive chairs wearing their nice black robes, and they listened as Homer's attorneys told them, Your Honors, now our client paid for his ticket, and he should be able to sit in first class or anywhere else on that train he wants to sit. The national law says equal protection for all. Well, the judges retired to their chambers to consider the matter. While Homer and his attorney waited, they wondered, will these judges be wise, or will they make a bad situation worse? The judges came back. 7 of them said, yes, it is true. The law does say equal protection for all. However, the law does not say that we should ignore differences of color. It's fine to have separate cars. Now, one judge disagreed. He said there shouldn't be separating of people by race nor class. But he was 1 judge against 7. So Homer lost his case. Separate but equal became the law of this land. Oh, we were separate, all right. We had been separate. But equal? Not by a long shot. Homer lost that case, but Homer and his people kept on fighting for justice. Now, Ina, remember her, the daughter of the woodman? She was kind of like Homer's people. She was just young, about 9, 10 years old, but she was very smart, very clever. People actually came from miles around just to ask her advice. So when her father told her about how the horse had been swindled, Ina wanted justice. She said, that's okay, Father. I'll go to the market tomorrow and maybe I'll have better luck. Early morning, she loaded up that mule and made it to the market. After a while, that same black-bearded rich man strolled into the market wearing another beautiful silk robe. And he was thinking, maybe I'll get me another free horse today. Then he spotted the girl and the mule. Or maybe I'll get me a mule, that'll do. Girl, what will you sell your wood for? 2 gold coins, sir. And will you sell it just as it is? Certainly, if you will pay me just as it is. Fine. He showed her the coins. Follow me. The same thing that happened to her father happened to her. There she was, no wood, no mule. She got the coins though. And she's, sir, you promised to pay me exactly as it is. So I'll take these coins and your hand. What? Oh, girl, you are making a mistake. You are making, well, sounds like you disagree. My father said, if people disagree, sometimes they have to go to court. Do you want to go to court? Yes, as a matter of fact, I do want to go to court. They ended up in front of that same judge. He listened to both sides of the story, and then he tried to find some excuse to rule in favor of the rich man. But the girl had outsmarted them both. He said, you bought that wood exactly as it is, correct? Yes. And you promised to pay exactly as it is. Did you not? Yes. Then I rule in favor of the girl. Case closed. But perhaps we can have some sort of negotiation and perhaps you can keep your hand. Girl, what are you willing to accept? Well, my father always taught me that I should give people a bargain, so I will give him a bargain. Only 50 gold coins. What? 50? Well, he complained, but he paid, and then immediately started scheming a way to get his money back. He said, girl, you are not so clever. You are nothing but a sparrow. I am a hawk. I eat sparrows for breakfast. I challenge you to a real battle. I challenge you to tell the biggest story. I will put 500 gold coins on it. You put up your little 50 and we'll call it even. He slapped 500 on the table. He said, if the judge says your story is better, simple, you win. What do you say, Sparrow? Ina didn't blink an eye. She slapped her money down on the table and said, done. The rich man gave the judge a little wink and started his tall tale. Once, before I was born, I said, before I was born, I found 3 ears of corn in my pocket. I threw them out the window, and the next morning, the whole yard was a field of corn so thick. How thick was it? Oh, it was so thick. It took 10 men, 10 days to get all the way to the other side. It was so thick, 40 of my best goats got lost in it. No matter how hard my servants searched, they couldn't find them. Now, when the corn was ripe, my servants picked it, ground it into meal, made cornbread. Then I did my part. I ate some. And out of my mouth leaped a goat, and another, until the whole herd had leaped out. And get this, each goat was as big as a full-grown bull. Now top that, Sparrow. The judge said, ooh, well, that was good. The judge got a little worried for the girl, but Ina didn't blink an eye. She said, impressive. Now listen to my humble tale. Once I planted a cotton seed in my garden, and the next morning, it had grown so tall. How tall was it? It was so tall that it went straight through the clouds. It was so tall, it took 3 days to get out of its shadow. Well, once the cotton was ready, all by myself, I picked it, cleaned it, and sold it. With that money, I bought 40 fine camels, loaded them down with the finest silks. And then I asked my big brother to take the caravan to Samarkand, only a 3-day journey. My brother went off wearing his best silk robe. But I heard nothing about him for 3 whole years. Until yesterday. Yesterday I heard my brother had been robbed and killed by a black-bearded rich man. You are that black-bearded villain. I know, because you are wearing my brother's best silk robe. The judge said, ooh, that was the best. Even the rich man knew it. And so before the judge could ask any questions about the caravan, the camels, the silks, and the brother, the rich man said, take my robe, take the gold and go, just go. Ina took the robe and the gold and left. Now, when she got home, she showed her father the robe. He couldn't help but notice. No mule. He said, it's beautiful, but without a horse or mule, I don't know how we will survive. Ina didn't say a word. She shook that robe and made it rain. Gold coins flew from every fold. That swindler finally got what he deserved from my little daughter. And from then on, Ina and her father had horses, mules, and whatever else they wanted or needed. Now that is a good folktale ending. There are so many real life stories that don't end so well. Remember Homer? And his story didn't end so neat and tidy. But you know, Homer and his people, they kept on fighting for justice. Year after year after year. 50 years after Homer lost his case, this happened. Lucinda Todd was reading the newspaper one day. You know, she's one of Homer's people. She was reading the paper and she said to her husband, there's going to be a spring music concert. Says here, children from all 18 Topeka schools will participate. A minute. They aren't including the 4 schools our Negro children go to. It's bad enough that they have these raggedy textbooks and broken down buildings. Our children should have a music program too. I'm calling the school board. The school board man said, y'all's children don't have a music program because y'all's children aren't interested in music. Besides, y'all can't afford the instruments. How does he know what our children are interested in? And bless his heart to be so concerned about our finances. Lucinda Todd didn't give up. She fought and got music in those Topeka schools. But that wasn't it. That wasn't all. Oh no, she wrote a letter to the National Association of Colored People, the NAACP. And she told them, listen, not only are our children missing out on music programs, they aren't getting equal education, period. I'm tired of our children getting miseducated in these segregated schools. We need to fight this. That one letter started something. So once again, we found ourselves in court before 9 judges as they sat in their impressive chairs, wearing their fine robes, listening as the attorneys told them with evidence how our children are getting miseducated in these segregated schools. Well, the judges retired to their chambers to consider. While we waited, we wondered, will these judges be wise, or will they make a bad situation worse? Well, the judges came back. They said, you claim that Negro children aren't getting equal education because of segregated schools. We agree. We order that the schools integrate with all deliberate speed. Hallelujah, hallelujah. African Americans all across the country celebrated, crying, laughing, dancing, jumping up and down, just jubilating all over the place. Oh, that's a good ending. Or it would have been if things had gone the way the judges ordered. But instead, governors, school board people said we will shut down before we let them in our schools. Some of them shut down. Some stayed open. And when our children went to integrate, they were spat on, attacked, called all kind of names, told to go back to Africa. But one man in Mississippi, he happened to be a judge. This man said, no, everybody just calm on down. I got the answer to this problem. Why don't we just create a new state just for the Negroes? Then they won't have to go to our schools. Create a whole new state. Now, I wasn't there back then, but I'm pretty sure my people back there were thinking what I'm thinking right now. A whole new state? Just for us? No, thank you. This is our country as much as it is yours. So we will stay and fight to live freely in any and every state. We are still not equal. So we are not done. Thanksgiving's coming up. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to say that we live in a country where all of its people are treated equally and justly? To be able to say that, yes, mistakes were made, but the wrongs against groups of people are being made right. So many generations, and we still have to fight for constitutional rights. Now, I know some of you, well, I hope many of you, are out there saying everybody should have their constitutional rights. But when you see protesters demanding our rights, do you ever think, oh, well, I wish they wouldn't do that? I mean, it's so loud, so unruly. They could just stay home and write letters and protest. Kneel at home, not at football. That's not the time nor the place. If they would just act right. I mean, and those people who were killed, well, they were guilty of something. If they would just act civilized. I mean, they've made so much progress. I mean, they've had a Black president, for God's sake. If any thoughts like that ever cross your mind, stop. Ask yourself, why am I supporting injustice? Someone once said, when good people do nothing, bad things happen. I say, when good people think thoughts like that, bad things happen over and over and over. This is not just our fight. If you want to live in the democracy we claim to be, then you have a part in this too. Protesters and decent judges, they can show us the right road, but they can't make us walk down that road together. That's up to us, you and me. I'm already on that road, looking for a happy ending, not a folktale ending, but a real life happy ending for all those Native Americans, and African Americans, and people of color who have been told and shown that we don't deserve to be equal. I'm on that road. You coming with me? I ain't nobody. Well, you know what? Lucia can do it a whole lot better than I do. Will you sing for us one more time?
I'm gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, walking in the freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, oh, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'll keep on fighting, keep on praying, walking up freedom land.
Maybe everybody could sing with you, and if you're like me, you can sing off key, but you can sing on. That's the best thing. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Thank you, Lucia. Eva, there's thank you. Thank you very much for that story, for those many stories that you are a certain weaver. You are a weaver of dreams and a weaver of stories. Tellabration are stories in 300 different places tonight. And in this place, those are our stories. Eva has taken us through the tribulations, but also reminded us of the joy that people demand. And the very people who with their hands and their back built this country, Black people. Music and joy and stories, they remind us time and time again that we need hope. So I suggest to you that as an odd a concept as it is, as hard to think and imagine as it is, what if this is the best time of your life? What if this moment and this Thanksgiving, where you may not have everybody you want to be with you, but what if it's your time? What if it's the time you're supposed to be on earth and it is the best time? I suggest to you, this is the best time for hope. Thank you all very much for bringing your spirits and your hearts. Lucia, thank you. Thank you so much for your gifts and sharing them. Eva, thank you for an amazing story that I'm sure will stay with us all, because this is the story. This is the story. This is the story we've never listened to before. I hope we will listen to it now. And that may be why we're here together. We might not ever see each other again. We might never be in the same place at the same time. But this moment, we have heard the same song. We've heard the same story. And we might remember the story we make in the future is in our hands. Thank you all very much. I'm Auntmama. I'll see you on Pocket Grass. And right now, Barry will take us to the end.
Yes, we have a few announcements, and in a moment I will encourage you all, if you even can do it now, to go back to gallery view so that you can see everybody. First of all, let me remind you about our purple hat. There are 3 different ways you can donate to us. Somebody was grumbling during the chat about being overcharged by PayPal. Well, if you go to the tip jar, you can use a variety of ways of sending money, or if you want to just mail a check, the address is there, and the information has already been copied into your chat as well. Now, I would encourage you to, if you have not already done it, to switch to gallery view and unmute yourself, and feel free to applaud with your hands, our 3 storytellers. Let's hear it for Eva.
Yay, Eva.
Good
Oh,
job.
that was really terrific. Let's hear it for MaryAnne.
Yay.
Yay. And let's hear it for Lucia.
Yes.
Oh,
And Lord willing, next time we'll figure out a way that we could hear her piano playing too.
You leave it up. The music.
And I do want to thank you all for coming. We had over 60 people here tonight.
Yeah, that was great.
I want to make a comment about how important it is to do this in this time. We may be apart, but together we are doing what we're doing, and it is mattering. For the stories I heard tonight were so moving. And I want to also say, if you don't think you're a storyteller, now's the time to go ahead and try it when we have our gatherings. And we have a lot of them, a couple a month. And we even have a Christmas party coming up. So we'll do an activity that'll be really fun. We're thinking it up right now that we can do on Zoom together. So
Yeah.